Okay, everyone, what I have for us today is just a quick display of a new approach to making certain kinds of products for IMVU, okay? So the Jade body now has body layers for the skin tight and tattoo. However, what's different this time is instead of having to use the UV maps to kind of guess where the positioning of the alpha maps are going to be when you're making your cutouts and all of that, now you can do that directly in Blender. So there is a product out now. All right, it's called the Layers Painter. So what you're going to do is you're going to open the archive file in your file explorer. So I'm going to open that up where mine is now. Okay, so as you can see, you have a guide. You have some sample textures here just for you to preview if you want to use these textures. Then you have the SOB Jade Layers Painter joined, and then you have the SOB Jade Layers Painter separated. Okay, so for Blender, which is our primary platform in our case, we're going to be using the separated one. This one, you can use it for the likes of Substance Painter that don't support multiple objects being imported simultaneously. So we're going to use the separated. So how do we import this? All we need to do really is we can just drag this into our Blender scene. Okay. So I've dragged this into a default Blender scene. Just open up Blender, the default scene. Then I'm going to click import FBX. Then before I do anything, I'm going to just press Ctrl+I. All right, with my mouse in the 3D view, I'm going to press Ctrl+I so that it selects everything else that wasn't just imported. Then I'm going to press X and then I'll delete. Good, so I'm going to press 1 to bring that to the front view. Then I'm going to press N to bring up my side panel, which I'll be needing eventually. And yes, so this is our painter. As you can see, we have the base body, we have layer 1, and then we have layer 2. So layer 1 typically we use for tattoos, because that's generally the tighter layer. And then layer 2 we use for skin tight clothing items. Take for example underwear, leggings, and so on. So let's start with layer 1 to display how exactly to go about this. We're going to just be using the shading workspace and the texture paint workspace. Okay, so let's hide layer 2. Okay, then before we get into it, okay, so let's go to shading. We can close this so we have a bigger space. Good, so we're in shading. Now you're going to come to material and then you're going to select 10. All right, so starting from 10, you're going to press Shift+A. You want an image texture. Then you're going to click new. Now, before you proceed, you need to decide what kind of approach you want. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is we are going to be painting the opacity map directly in Blender. Okay, so primarily what we're going to do is for the opacity maps, you can also paint the actual texture, that's the diffuse, right, directly in Blender as well. So you need to decide when you're doing the opacity map step what kind of approach you want to use. So do you want to start with from everything being covered, then you're just only like reducing something? So let's say you want to make sleeves that don't go directly to the wrist. What you'd want to do is you're going to make a white map first, then you'll erase the parts of the wrist you do not want with the black color. But for my case, I want the opacity to be fully transparent. Then I'm going to use the white color to add to my opacity map, okay? So I am painting to reveal, I am painting to show. But if you want to paint to hide, you're going to change this color to white. Just drag this up. But for me, I want to paint to show. So I'm going to bring mine down. So just so we have a clearer idea, just here's another example. So take, for example, I want to draw out like underwear for my avatar. I want to draw out a tattoo because we are on the tattoo layer after all. Using the painting to show method is going to work better in my favor. But if I'm just going to have basically everything covered and I want a few parts exposed, like wood, like a simple top, I should be using the painting to hide method by setting this to white as the base. Okay, so since we're making tattoos on this layer, I'm going to leave this as black. Then as we know, 512 currently, 512 by 512 is the max. Then the naming is important. Just name it something explicit enough. So I'm going to call this 10 up, just in case I decide to do a texture for the diffuse. Then I am going to connect the color to the alpha of my principled BSDF. Then I will repeat these steps for all the other materials. So you can only do, if you want, the materials that concern you. So let's say you want to do a leg tattoo. If it's a front leg tattoo, for example, that's 14. If it's the back leg, that's 16. Front upper half is 10. Back upper half is 12. This part of the sleeve is 18, and then this sleeve is 19, okay? So let's actually just do for 14. All right, so image texture again. If you want a tattoo that's going to go around the whole body, you're going to do this step for all the materials around the body, okay? So I'm going to call this one 14 up. Then I am going to connect it to the alpha. Then, since I'm doing a tattoo, I want to first of all change the base color of my base. All right, you are not exporting anything 3D. When you are doing this, you are not exporting anything 3D. So none of these objects are you exporting. So you can change the base body color to whatever you wish. So as you can see, because we put a black opacity map in 14 and 10, the front half is completely invisible. Okay, so it's good to have a contrast color between the base body and then the actual tattoo. So let's make this like a darker color so we can see the tattoo better. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to come to texture paint. Then I'm going to press 1. I'm going to press N, and then I'm going to click on tool to see my tool properties. I'm going to move this to the side just a bit. Okay. Just so I can have a clear workspace. Now, the black you are painting on is your the alpha layer in our case. Okay, so it's also important to make sure that whatever layer that you intend to paint on, or whatever image texture that you intend to paint on, it's the active selection. All right, so make sure that it's the active selection before coming to texture paint. Then I want to draw just a simple tattoo. So the basics, I'm going to press F to increase or decrease my brush. Then this is my color. Okay, so the color to your left is the color that is going to be the color when you use the left click. So this is the foreground color effectively, okay? So I'm going to change mine to white since I'm painting over a black map. Then I'm going to change the background color to black. And then now when I paint with left click, you can see now that I have painted something, okay? So let's say I want the tattoo to just bleed into here. I can do something like that. Now, if I want to erase, I could change this back to black, or I could just hold Control. So that's what having this as your background color helps. So when you hold Control, you can easily switch. So let's try and do something a bit creative. So I'm not using any pen tablet. I'm just using my mouse for demonstrative purposes. Okay, so let's just do something. So yes, if you're wondering, if you are going to be using a pen tablet, Blender does support pen pressure. Okay, so if you are using a tablet, Blender will support your pen pressure. All right, so let's just draw something. Let's draw something on the other side so we can see how it looks on the other side. So as you can see, as we draw in 3D, you can see it reflects on our UV. If it's also going to be the same if we draw on the 2D. You can see it went from that way to that way. All right, so we can even draw maybe like a heart on the 2D, just to have it there. Then now I want to change the color of my tattoo. So the real color, right? So you can see in 10 and in 14, right? If I want to change just the preview color, I can change my base color to like a red or something, but I don't want to change the base color. I want to leave it at the default grayish white. Okay, so this is how you go about making your opacity for tattoos. So what you can do now is you can, once you are done, come here to this part of your shader editor, then you're going to click this menu image, and then you can save as if you want to rename it or save a copy. Okay, so I can save this. So the shortcut, as you can see, is Alt plus S. So, all right, so I can then now save this image. Then I can do the same with my opacity. Then I'm going to save again. So now I've drawn my tattoos. So like I said, if you want the tattoos to cover the back area and the sleeves, you can go ahead, but these are just for a show and tell. Also, it's not that this is going to be mandatorily or compulsorily meant for tattoos. Okay, you can use the layers as you wish. It's just that this is commonly used for tattoos, but you can use it as you wish. You can use it just like, or you want clothing on top of clothing. All right, so let's do something with layer 2 now. I am going to do for layer 2 in 30. So for layer 1, you have 10, 12, 14. It's the same naming pattern, but it just starts with 30, okay? So I'm going to add another image texture. Then new, what I want to do is, I'm going to call this one 30 up. I left it as black as you saw. So for layer 2, I only want to do the top half just to display what's going on. Then shift A, image texture. Okay. New, 32 up. And then new image. Oh yes, okay, because layer 1 is still visible. Okay, good. So let's come to back to texture painting. So now for layer 2, I want a simple top. All right, so what I can do is I can just start painting like this. So this is easy. I would argue that it's easier because you don't have to go back and forth between like a Photoshop or a GIMP. If you want to see the direct preview, you could switch the image here. So let's say I'm tired of, trying to guess. I could even paint directly in the 2D. All right, just like I'm doing. And remember, when you want to erase something, you just hold Control. But I'm not erasing anything here. So let's just do like a tube kind of material, or kind of like clothing item. So this, I'd argue, is easier than the method of going back and forth between Photoshop or GIMP or Krita with your UV map as the guide. If you are used to that already, then this is just overkill. But if you are new to like the 2D workspace and you need something that's going to bridge the gap, maybe you're more familiar with the 3D workspace and you need something to represent that for you, this would help a ton. All right, so as you can see, we're just drawing. And then once you're done, just like we did with the previous one, you come back to shading. You select the image you want to save. Alt S to save it, then you can use it as the opacity map for the product that you want in IMVU. So let's look at it together with the top. Maybe let's change this to like a red just for display purposes. Okay, so in IMVU, what you then do is use like your opacity 10 in your 10, and then your opacity 30 in your 30, and then you'd get something like this. Change the colors as you wish. There are base textures as you saw earlier, although you can bake your own. All right, so to bake, all you need to do is change this to cycles, GPU compute, and then you bake, set up your image textures for baking, then you bake. But this was just this whole quick video and tutorial was just a quick demonstration of how this works. Let me know what you think of this process. Also, if you have any comments, be sure to leave them to me. I'll be sure to respond. Thank you for being a part of this. And also, if you have any questions, maybe you lost something or you're unsure of something, or there's something that you have in mind that wasn't discussed but you feel it's relevant here, just be sure to leave that to me in the comments and I'll be sure to respond. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.